What is up? We are back. Hey guys, how's it going?
Good, thank you.
Yeah,
Good,
great to be here.
good. I'm excited to have you guys on. First customer episode of this season. So always fun to have guests on to share their stories and learn more about today shifting left, which is exciting. Before we start, Madoc, what are the things on your background? Are they medals?
Oh yeah. I do a bit of ultra running, so that's long distance running. So that's everything over a marathon distance. So I like a bit of pain now and again, and that's the method.
Go on, Madoc. Depress people. What's the farthest you've run in an ultra?
105 miles. Two nights, no sleep, hallucinations. Yeah, it's almost like a week working with AWS infrastructure.
Hey.
No, much easier.
Oh my goodness, that is if anyone who's just listening, my face just said it all with the shock. That is very impressive. I have some trophies behind me, but they're just for picking up heavy stuff, which is far less impressive, I feel, sometimes than running that far. Very cool. And Rich, you've got the FinOps book. I've got the same in the background. Classic.
I've got mine as well. Snap.
Mine is literally, that's this under my little Halloween mug. We're getting festive. It's getting into Halloween season, so I've got my pumpkins and stuff. Anyway, awesome. Okay, let's get into it. So welcome everyone to the Keys to AWS Optimization, the show where we share stories, concepts, and solutions to help you unlock your spend at AWS. My name is Steph Gooch, and I'm a senior optimization architect here to help you with all your optimization journeys. And today we have two guests. They are both from Haven, and we're going to skip the 1 minute origin story today because we're going to be talking a bit about their careers anyway, because this episode is focusing on their journey in FinOps and also shifting left. So if you don't know what shifting left is, stick around and we will be covering that later. Couple of tiny housekeeping things. Just a reminder, I will be at reInvent. Are you guys going to reInvent?
Unfortunately, not.
No. We didn't get our tickets in time. So.
Hopefully next time. Well, I'll see you at the summit next year, I'm sure.
Yes.
So if you are going, then come say hi. A bunch of these sessions that I am covering. With CloudFix, but also 2 specific breakout sessions. So come check me out there. And I'm also doing peer talks, but all that information, I'll do a dedicated video on where you can find me at reInvent. And lastly, in case you have any follow-up questions, feel free to email us at costoptimization@amazon.com. Anything you have questions about, drop me a note. And if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe. Right, into you guys. Who wants to go first? Tell us a bit about your background. Madoc, why don't you kick us off?
About me or all the business that Haven that we're working for? Which one?
Let's do a bit about you and then a bit about the business.
Okay. So I've been in IT and consulting for quite a long time. I contracted for 20 years. I was previously a network architect. I went through the whole CCIE training back in 2003 and did my CISP and security and all that stuff. But about 8 years ago, cloud came about, and I thought, wow, this is a total game changer. So I left the networking and haven't looked back since. So I've been working on AWS since then. Again, contracting for a number of different companies, financial services. But I came back to Haven, not to Haven, to the holiday industry, because we sell such a fantastic product. Selling holidays, it's much more interesting than financial packages. So this is why I'm back in this industry, and I'm not contracting anymore. So I'm full time with Haven, looking after their cloud centers of excellence with Rich.
Nice.
Indeed.
Yeah, hand us to Rich.
I've been in the industry for 20 years as well. I came from a software background, so not the networking side. I was a software architect in .NET. I came across AWS around 2017, and I rediscovered my passion, having never realised I'd lost it with working with AWS. So that was fantastic. I joined Haven about 14 months ago, working for the gentleman above, and it's been an absolutely fantastic ride. Living, breathing AWS, and getting to meet obviously good guys like yourself.
Sure. So we actually met at FinOps meetup, didn't we? Where you were doing a kind of version of this conversation a while ago now. And so I literally saw these guys present and I was like, this is it. I need to have them come on because I need them to talk about this concept that I've never heard of, and also the fabulous tool that we'll be talking about later. But people in the chat, if you're watching, drop in where your last holiday was. I'd be interested to see. Mine was Italy last week. So anyone in the chat, feel free to share your holidays. So when we started this conversation before, you kind of mentioned likening FinOps to security. Do either one of you want to touch base on a bit about how you see FinOps and security working together?
Yes, so I can jump on that one. So to me, it's one of the 6 pillars of the AWS well-architected framework. So, so we got security, operational excellence, all the others, and financial, FinOps in there as well. So it's all a part of the same framework with all the different pillars. So to us, it's really important that partly part of the CCOE function that we run is we address all of those 6 pillars.
Nice.
And everybody needs to address these pillars. It's not just us. It's a team sport. All of these things, the engineers, we try to empower the engineers so that they have the ability to care about them as well. It's not just a centralized function preaching from a high. Everyone collaborates and has buy-in to do all these things to make them work.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I feel like so much of the time the security concepts get pulled to the front. There's a lot of data on it, there's a lot of reviews on it, but less so with FinOps and cost. And so I always like to say, if you have a security conversation about an application, you should also be having a cost optimization or a cost conversation about it. Not necessarily optimize, but are you on budget? Are you tracking? Is this got everything that you can make it to be the most optimized scenario?
Agree completely. Sorry, Steph. Agree completely. It's back to the term of the ownership. It's about giving them the tools and the information to make informed decisions. Because I don't know how you feel about it, but in the industry previously, you see a lot of people it's all about emotion rather than data, and giving that ability of the data and the visibility for people to actually see and understand implications of what they do. It's key for them to be able to actually move on that and do something about that.
And it's giving them that data early, and this is where it comes into the shifting left. It's giving the developers that data, that information really early, even before they deploy. They could even do this locally on their own machines or in a plan, in an infrastructure as code pull request. They will see what's going to happen before it's actually deployed, and we do this for financial, for the FinOps, and we do it for the security as well. It's much better to be able to make sure they put something in secure than us come around in the outset that we have to mop up and tighten up security controls. If you look at any sort of modern security tooling now, there's thousands and thousands of vulnerabilities within your infrastructure. There's no way you can do it all. So you have to, as Rich was saying, make it a team game, push it out there to the developers, make sure they catch these things early on so they're not actually deployed later. Because it's just a game you can't win if you try and catch it at the end.
Yeah, awesome. So we've had a question which is about tooling, but I think it's Timothy. We're going to come back to tooling, so stick around to make sure you figure this out. But before we do, I'm going to try something new, guys. So we're going to try doing. Forgive me because I haven't done these before. We're going to try doing a poll.
What can go wrong? Yeah,
I know exactly. It's only going live. So do you know what shift left means? So type in the chat 1 for yes, 2 for no. So if I'm going to do it, I never really remember 2. So if anyone in the chat, thank you guys. Yes. So a couple of people no, a couple of people yes. So it looks like more people are leaning to, we're at 50-50 now. So some do, some don't. Okay, good to know. Awesome. All right, thank you, chat. So why don't one of you explain what shift left is? Because all I can hear in my head is the song I posted on LinkedIn, which is like the Beyonce to the left. Just shout out to my best friends. We sang that a lot on holiday.
I'm quite grateful to say it's got nothing to do with Beyonce, but that's just a personal choice. Shift left. I'll jump in with that one. Shift left is taken from the DevOps concepts of basically trying to get quality control and testing as early as possible. It's the same for FinOps. It's the same for security. Right? It's moving the introduction of the consideration of FinOps to a very early stage in the cycle. So, as I alluded to earlier, and Madoc has said, previously what happens is people develop something, they deploy the infrastructure, and then they see the costs. At that point, it's kind of too late. You're paying the money, it's hitting you. So with the idea of shift left is to move it before, as early in the stage as possible. So in the way we do, we introduce into our build pipelines. So in our build pipelines, we get to see the costs that are there. And if you go extreme left, as Madoc said earlier, the developers can actually run the tooling that actually gives you the cost estimations on your local machine before it even hits the pipeline. So that way the developers, the engineers are empowered to actually make choices and understand the concepts. It gives you lots of benefits regarding fast feedback loops. So rather than having to wait X period of time before they actually understand and see those costs, they get feedback quickly and can see those things back quickly. There's a collaboration because while we do the security, we do the FinOps, they get to speak with us, they get to understand those things as collaboration between teams. There's lots of different benefits of shifting left. And the main one being a FinOps one is the improved forecasting and budgeting. You actually know if I'm going to release one of the new 7 range of processors with the 32 extra large, just how much it's going to cost before it even touches production. And
they cost more. They cost more than the 6th gen as well, by the way. But yeah, Steph, I guess you've covered this before. This is the common question.
Oh yeah, all these ones. But so that goes good. Kind of, Madoc, do you have any good stories of how shifting left has positively impacted your teams, your business, your spend that you want to share?
Yeah. Well, I can give you a really quick example. This is from this week. So we've got a number of developers setting up some new Kubernetes clusters. They want to put these in new VPCs. So we raise a PR. All the things we do are in GitOps. So this is how it all ties in. So within the plan, we'll push out how much those AWS resources would cost. They can clearly see when they're standing up a new VPC with all the endpoints, with all your internet gateway on there and your NAT gateways, it'll come to a cost. I bet most developers, if you ask them how much is the VPC with all the endpoints and various other connections, how much does it cost? None will be able to answer that question. Yeah. So it's around about $400 when you have it all in a resilient stand-up.
457, Madoc.
There we go.
Ooh, I love the specifics of it.
Yeah. So we can now expand that out. We go, oh, hold on a minute. We got 3 load balancers in there. I'm putting this in as a development cluster. Do I really need 3 load balancers? Each one of them costing, Rich will probably keep me honest again, $37, $35-ish. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, I'm in the right ballpark per NAT gateway. So, we can take those out. So they can look at it in the plan even before they deploy it and say, look, we can optimize the cost on this depending what we need. And it gives them a real time figure of how much it's going to be. Otherwise, people will not know that number. They won't go and spend all that time in AWS cost calculator, which takes about 10 minutes to pump anything out. This gives it instantly. It's straight there.
It's our chance for another dig at AWS today. The old simple cost calculator was wonderful. The new one is very hard work.
Hey, provide your feedback. That's what I always say. Just provide the feedback. Raise a peer bar. No, that's really good points about the VPC one is a great example because when I was a developer, I just thought VPC free. That was in my head. I was like, VPC don't cost anything. You don't think about all the extra bits. And so that's a really good example. And also kind of having that review of like you said, this is development. Do we need all these things? So putting that data in front of people. All right, let's get into Tim's question, which is, what tools are you using to shift left? There is one in mind that we're probably all thinking about. Madoc,
Yes.
Rich, do you want to talk about it?
Yes,
There's definitely one. Oh, you're
there's
going to jump in, Madoc. Come on then, Madoc.
So yeah, we were exploring this concept. So we were already shifting left with security, and as we said, the 6 pillars there. We thought, well, what can we do with cost optimization? And we had a look out. We did a great search around. We spoke to a number of people, and the one that stood out was a product called Infra. This was open source, so we were able to test this for free to start off with. We put this in our pipeline. We run GitHub Actions within our CI/CD pipeline, and what it does is as I sort of alluded on earlier, it pulls the plan in from your Terraform, so whatever plan you're doing, and it works out the cost per resource that you're now standing up, and then it gives an output of exactly what it's going to cost before you stand it up. So we put this in our pipeline, and immediately, we then understood what things were costing before we actually deployed them. We've now taken that a little bit further. So we met up with InfraCost. We had a chat with them. We've now got onto a paid service with them, and we get a dashboard at the back end of that. Makes it easier to integrate with our pipelines, and we get a great overview of every month of where things are costing. We can even see which developers are spending the most money or saving the most money, so we can gamify that as well. We can actually say, well done guys, you're reducing costs within the infrastructure, or you're spending a lot of costs, should you really be doing this? So
asking those questions.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, it gives us massive visibility.
Regarding the shift left as well, I mean, they're a great company, great people to work with, very responsive, and they do a free as well as a paid for plan. The dashboard, what Madoc mentioned, is part of the paid for plan, which we find extremely useful from a centralized function. It gives us the ability to implement tagging policies and things like that, so that we can actually ensure everything is tagged correctly. And we all know how important tagging is when you're looking at your FinOps side of things and associating costs. But part of the free side of it, I mean, you'll still get to put into your pipelines. And with, as I was trying to get to, with the shift left, they do containerization. So you can actually use through Docker, you can actually put something in place to actually test locally on your machine. So the developers don't even have to check it in. They reuse it with make files using a pattern called the Three Musketeers pattern. And that way the guys can literally run what the pipeline will run, and it will generate a cost association of what you're about to push into your branch, which I find is really powerful, and it empowers the engineers to be able to have that control and that knowledge before it even touches any Git repository, which I think is phenomenal. Definitely.
Let me go live. I went too early. I'd be interested in the chat. How do I reset this? I was like, let me redo another one. I'll do it on the side. There's a good question from Travis, which is, how long did it take you to implement InfraGoth? That's a great question.
No time at all, to be honest. I've got to say, I was extremely impressed at how easy and configurable it is. Initially, we started by using a GitHub action, which we put into place using containers. With the version we have now, you don't even have to do that. You literally give access to your GitHub organization, and it will automatically plummet in to all of the repositories for you. It's phenomenally easy. It was a bit more work doing the shift left approach for the local machines, because I'm cursed with using a Windows machine. Linux is far easier, but worked with Hassan and Ali to actually get that working. So now we've got a pattern, and we will be doing a blog with those people to show people how to implement it as a local machine using the pattern I mentioned earlier. So
we've had great feedback loops to them as well. So on the early days, we've been using it for a little while now, and on the earlier days, we were discussing what works for us, what we'd like to see, and the speed of delivery on new features was really good as well. But
Yeah.
it didn't take us too long at all, really. It wasn't, it was no more painful than putting any other thing in your CI/CD pipeline. Yeah, and we use GitHub Actions. It's quite straightforward. If you have a GitHub Actions pipeline already and you're using infrastructure as code, yeah, it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I've used it. I'm waiting for them to call out InfraCost, do the CloudFormation version, because I'm an CloudFormation person, unfortunately. And so I've moved to that. But I'll throw this up there while we're chatting. So people in the chat, had you heard of InfraCost before today? 1 for yes, 2 for no. So it looks like this. But yeah, I really recommend checking them out. That sounds lovely. They came on a show the other day, and you're right, it is very simple. And the simplicity of it means that, and it's already integrated into your GitLab, right? And I think that's one of the big parts of it, is that it's not an extra step, it's not an extra place to go to, just makes it really important. So a bunch of people had heard of it, which is great. I'll set it down. The other question we had, was that me? Got another question, which is, how have you moved the security pillar left as it integrates with GitHub? So have you also guys worked with any of the security elements on that?
We have the same way we've implemented the shift left approach with FinOps. We've done the same with things because everything we do is infrastructure as code. Full stop. We don't do things by the console. As Madoc can testify, one of the big lessons we learned was console access is bad.
Yeah.
We don't want to do that. I'll let Madoc reiterate on some of that in a moment. But things like Checkoff, we use Checkoff is another tool developed by Bridge Crew, which is, I think, part of Palo Alto now. That is one of the tools we put in for compliance checking on our code, so we can see any security risks as part of the build pipeline to actually highlight if there's issues with policies, if there's issues with lack of versioning, etc., etc. And there's a whole massive suite of tests available for that. And again, like I said, all part of the pipeline, all can be run locally. So the engineers have that full capability to do that. Madoc, some of the issues we learned regarding
I just want to carry on what you were saying. Yeah, so we use Checkoff. We used to use
Terrascan.
Terrascan was the first one we started with. We moved to Checkoff. They're pretty much the same, open source. They're great. They cover the same sort of rule base. And you can, if you're putting a certain thing, it'll put a load of things out that you may not want to use, like versioning on buckets. You don't want to version all your buckets because it's just going to cost you more because you're putting more copies of that object in there. So you can actually hash those out and say, ignore this, carry on, and then you get rid of that bit of noise that it's originally calling out as a security risk. So that's really good, and you put that directly into your Terraform code as well. But yeah, lessons learned. You need to read to be able to meet all these things of shifting left, building upon all these newer functionality, and being able to control and automate your pipelines. You really do need to be doing everything within infrastructure as code. We love Terraform. And I know, Steph, you like CloudFormation as well. Goes the same.
Like is a strong word. I used to be a Terraform head. In one of my hats is my Terraform hat over there.
Yeah. But one of the key things is tagging. It all goes back to the really basic thing of tagging. Have a tagging policy. Make sure that all your resources are tagged, even the ones that don't cost. There's a whole bunch of resources out there that don't cost anything, like security groups. But make sure that's tagged. If you're using AWS, using Terraform, make sure you've got your provider tag set up, which cover anything that slipped through the gaps. But yeah, tagging, super important. Don't do anything in the console. You try and do stuff in the console and infrastructure as code in the same account, you just end up in a bit of a world of pain. You've got one view and you get massive drift. It's really difficult to manage. So if you are doing that, get a new account, just do infrastructure as code only. If you want to play in the console, have a separate account that's just console. Maybe you have it as a play area. You nuke it every 24 hours. But for production, GitOps.
Yeah. And I had a customer who has a lot of spend on workspaces, And I actually did a bit of a deep dive into them and was looking into ones that were on. So workspaces, if people like an optimization tip is if you've got, I used to think always have workspaces like auto stop was cheaper, but I didn't know that like if they're over 80 hours on in a month, it's cheaper to do monthly. And so we realized one of them was spending like $700 a month on this workspace. If they'd just done it monthly, would have been like 120. So we're like diving into this data. What was my point? Oh, so I was like trying to think what my point was. So I have my bad account, which is like my totally infrastructure account. So everything is built, nothing can be built. Like you can build things manually, but I built everything in CloudFormation. And then I was like, okay, I need to build a workspace to test some of the stuff that I'm talking about with him. And so I was like about to go into my bad account, and I kind of heard myself be like, no. That's your infrastructure account. No, you're like take your IAC account. So I do have a sandbox account, which like I said, I just go in there and I'm going to throw up some bits, see what it looks like. Because in my head, and we had someone at my company that was very much a never use the console, but it was for GCP, and none of us had ever used GCP. So we really struggled with like working with components in Terraform because we hadn't seen the console, and so it was really hard to make it a tangible thing. And that's very, I mean, it's very basic. We should like at that point maybe we should have been able to understand it, but it was just everything was called different names. You didn't know what it looked like. So it was really difficult for people to get their head around GCP concepts because they only could do Terraform and it would break a lot of the time. Whereas I was an advocate for have a sandbox account, let people play and build, and then when you need to deploy it, like infrastructure as code. So yeah, I totally agree.
I think that's exactly right, Steph. I mean, obviously AWS are wonderful at releasing new services. Sometimes the easiest thing to do is have a play in the console, which is why having these TechNext accounts, sandbox accounts, which you do nuke with a few rules on there that you can't spin up something extremely expensive for the sake of it, but to have that ability to look, see what it does, and then to be able to translate that back into your IAC of choice. It becomes a lot easier because let's face it, we're all graphical people. Visualization is a far easier thing to do than the written words in some circumstances.
Yeah. Put some OU guardrails on it just to stop people spinning up 16x instances and the like. So,
yeah, exactly. So I want to just touch back on the shifting left and the infra cost a tiny bit more. We've got like 2 more minutes. When you did do the shift, if someone is watching today and they're thinking, I really want to try this as a service, I really want to push left, was there anything you did when it came to educating engineers on this concept or setting up kind of guidance or like any of that kind of steps that you think that you did or didn't do that you really think if someone was going to do it now, they should definitely do that?
I think it was communicating the value, what the value, additional data gives to people, and also that it's not something that's encroaching on their work. It's not something extra that they have to do. I think people always worry about doing extra or having to learn something new, additional cognitive load. But this was seamless. We just plugged it in, and it was just extra data that's shown to them. At the end of the day, they can completely ignore it. They can see that things are costing a fortune and completely ignore it if they want to. But the data is there for them to make that decision upon. And
I think, would you say, Madoc, that the behavioural thing is probably the worst? Because I remember we had certain teams saying, I don't want to see the costs in the pipeline. It's not important.
And to a lot of people, cost isn't important to them. It's not part of their job. They're asked to deliver things within a certain time scale. They're not asked to deliver it within a certain OPEX or how much it costs.
And that is just hitting the nail on the head that if it's not part of their job, they won't care about it. But if you make it part of their job, they will. The same way as if security wasn't part of it, no one would patch anything. So I definitely agree. We've had a really good question come in. This is very important, I think. What's Haven's best park? Controversial. Have you guys do you guys visit Haven Park?
That's easy. Go on.
So as you know, I do a lot of running, and I love the Pembrokeshire coast. Lidstep is my favourite because it's right on the coastline. You can get out on those amazing trails.
Well, I'll completely disagree with Madoc. I'll go Hackney Moor because it's one of our flagship sites. It's beautiful. It's on the coast. And it's where I've met this gent a few times, so I'm going to go with the Hackney Moor.
There you go. Good questions in the chat, hitting the hard topics of where the best places are. Love it.
But they're all
Awesome. Okay.
lovely.
They're all lovely. just to clarify, everyone's lovely. Thank you so much for coming on, guys. This has been a great chat. If everyone was watching and want to learn more, do check out InfraCost. Or if you're in the UK, we go to the UK FinOps meetups regularly, so you can come say hi at the next time you're there. Thank you so much for tuning in. Next week, we're going to be doing a Halloween horrors episode, so tune in for some spooky times next week. And we will see you all there. Have a good rest of your day, and thanks a lot for joining in.